When I say it's the insects, it's the insects. Listen to the difference. The insects, the frequency is so high pitched. Listen to it. I want to come in here. I want you to listen, please, you all. This is important. Listen to how high pitched these insect frequencies are. And then when I close the door, you don't hear it. I have to close my door because of the high pitched frequency coming from those insects out there. It's literally doing something to me. Hello. And you may be noticing too. It's like, this is what it's like, you all. You ever noticed, say you have a device and you plug it into the wall. Okay, let me find a plug-in. You plug it into the wall like this, and then you hear a very loud frequency sound coming from it. You know you've seen it, I've seen it. I can't stand it when I hear that frequency. Now listen, as I open up this door, let me make sure I got this volume up, you all. Listen, listen. You hear it? Listen how loud the frequency is. It's very, very loud. That right there is like plugging in an electronic thing in the outlet, and you hear that continuous, whether it be your electric razor or something like that, or even your cell phone when you plug it in. Listen to this. Okay, look. So watch. Can't hear it no more. Cannot hear it no more, you all. And I want to come out here. Their frequency is affecting us. Their frequency, let me see if I can get this over here. I'm going to try to see if I can put my laptop up here. You like that? They disconnected me just like that. These frequencies, I can't go to the edge of the porch. Let me get my laptop, you all. Let me get it. They won't let me go to the edge of the porch. These frequencies, they're very, very, very high pitched, like that high pitched noise we get in our ears. There's no way I can sit out here because it literally, it's going straight into me and it's like irritating. It's not a pleasant sound, you all. It's not. And part of me thinks this. Part of me thinks, you know, that they can use the insects in warfare. They can. And they can make, you know, they got the insect drones and stuff. They can use insects to destroy crops and affect us in ways that we could have never imagined. With frequency, you all, they can cause it to where these insects, they don't die out. They don't. They don't. Now listen, see, some of it stopped, but some of it, it's still going on. And I'm sitting here thinking, I'm trying to like fold my clothes with the door open because it's so nice out, but I can't. The frequency is too loud. It's too loud at times. And at night, when I have filmed the stars or the moon, and you watch the video, it's such a high pitch frequency. You know that's bound to affect us, you all. It's bound to. No, I can't see them. I can't see the insects. They're everywhere, but I can't see them. There's so many of them, you all. There's so many insects. Now listen, when I open up the door, hear the high pitched. And these aren't cicadas. I'd rather hear cicadas, is what I'd rather hear. Nothing against the insects, but something is off, the frequency, because it's literally like, there's been a lot of people complaining of high-pitched frequency that they pick up. I've picked it up, but this time, you know, it's coming from the insects. What if the insects, you all, now this is, listen, what if the insects are being bothered by radio frequencies and it's causing them to do that very loud? What if, hello, so I'm getting hot. I'm getting hot, you all. I'm getting hot. What if the insects are being exposed to, look at this, right here. What I just see this? Look, scientists are warning humanity on insect extinctions, electronic propelled radio waves, harmful effects. Now, I know that I just saw that. It's radio frequencies. What if the insects are getting destroyed too from these radio frequencies, you all? This is too high pitched for me. There's no way I could sit out here and enjoy the outdoors with that such of a high pitched. Do you all have that where you're at? Is what I'm wondering. Do you have it where you're at? Move my wind chimes. I'd rather hear wind chimes. I really would. It gets really, really loud. If the insects die off, it's not that hot, but I'm having a hot flash. Yeah, if the insects die off, it's around 80 something and the humidity's, I'm giving myself a hot flash. Wind chimes, yes, they're much more calming, but out here, no. And out here they get so loud at times. You have to shut the door because you went silent. It feels like it's so irritating, you are. It really is, hearing them. And I don't have nothing against the insects, but something is going on. I don't ever remember them being like this before. Sounds the same in Ohio, Suzanne. You don't have that in the UK? Yeah, these wind chimes are lovely. They're really nice. The Fifth Element, you're in Tennessee and they never left. Susan, are you hearing them too, where you're at? Susan B, honey? Welcome everyone. Yeah. It's like, it literally is. It is the frequency that you would get when you have your cell phone, like that little adapter, plugged into an outlet, and you hear a very, very high pitched, and you're wondering where it comes from, and you stick your ear up to it, and you realize that's coming from that cell phone charger in that outlet, and then you pull it out, and then the sound is gone. The high pitch is gone, you all. It's a lot. It's a lot of high frequency is what it is. A ton of high frequency out here. And it would give you a headache. It really would. You have it in DC as well. Does it affect you in DC? Does the high pitch frequency sound get to you? Do you think that it's let's look at this. Do you think insects emit electromagnetic radiation? They are continually exposed to the electromagnetic fields at different frequencies. The range of frequencies used for wireless communication systems will increase in the near future from below 6 gigahertz, 2G, 3G, 4G, and Wi-Fi to frequencies up to 100 gigahertz, 5G. So when was this written, you all? It used to be 6 gigahertz, which were these 2, 3, and 4, and it's going to go all the way up to 120. How can we even survive it? See, this was in 2018, and now we're at 120 gigahertz. Okay, no, this is what I want to see. Do they emit? They're not going to say if the insects emit radio frequency, electromagnetic frequencies. Do the insects, you ever look at these things when you go down with birds? They're able to detect very low levels of static fields. Animals produce radio waves. Biological cells produce RF in the gigahertz range, which is what your radio or cell phone works at. So if we're going up to 120 gigahertz, you know that's going to do something to the cells in our body, not to mention the cells in insects, animals, all kinds of things, bodies, you all. Let me see this, you all, because we got to look at this. The brown striped dragonfly drones. Oh, you saw them? Looks real till you get close, and then you get too close and they fly away. Suzanne, save the bees. We got plenty of bees where we're at. But whatever this is, I don't know if it's invasive species of a cricket or something. Their frequency is so high pitched. I don't know what they are, you all. You just matched your sound with the sound that is also here in Ontario, Canada. If we're hearing this sound all around the world, North America, that's not normal. I really don't think it's normal, because when I heard that, I thought, is it bouncing off the towers or something? But then it's coming from the insects too, you all. Look at this. Can electronic waves travel through a body? A 2.4 gigahertz and wavelength, approximately 12 centimeter, that wavelength will definitely get absorbed by your body. There are national and international EM radiation limits at basically all frequencies, almost all the way to DC, and with good reason. And with good reason. That was 2016. There was national and international EM radiation limits. From what wavelength can radiation go through the body? Well, they already said 2.4 gigahertz. 2.4. What does this do to your brain, you all? Let's hear what it's going to do to our brain. Neurological diseases, long-term EMF exposures, brain development. Bees and butterflies, they're continually exposed to the radio frequencies. Exposure to very low frequencies, but these are very, get off my knee, these are very high pitch. Look, the poor insects are continually exposed to radio frequency electromagnetic fields. The radio waves from devices affect the body clock of insects. It affects the insects, you all. The molecules will vibrate and heat up like microwaves that heat the food, the radio frequencies. The trick is to kill the insects without killing something, you all. Oh my gosh, that's terrible, you all. We don't want to see no insects, cells fried, and we don't want our cells done that to, you all. But this frequency is so high, they could be in pain. The insects could be in a lot of pain right now, and I'm not just saying that, they really could be, and maybe that's a cry. Maybe that's a cry of distress from the insects. If you're an entomologist, you know, a person who studies the insects, I'm sure that insects do have emotion. They can feel things, okay? They can feel pain, and I'm sure they can send out distress signals. That's what I'm saying. Distress signals. You all, what is it going to, something, all creation is groaning. Well, that's probably what's happening. The insects are so loud. They don't like what's being done too, because if the frequency was normally a 6 point something or 2.4, and now it's bumped up to 120, oh, they're probably dying on the inside, you all. It's probably driving them crazy. It really is very disorienting to them, just like birds when they're flying in the sky and they lose their sense of direction. They lose their sense of direction. And or the whales in the ocean, they beach themselves up, you all. The dolphins, Lord have mercy. When they go by that road with their trailers on the back of their pickup trucks with their farm equipment and lawn equipment, you all, it makes a loud banging on it. You had a bat in your house last night in distress. Oh my gosh. Oh, that's terrible. Well, this frequency is, if it's irritating to my ears and your ears, and let's face it, look how much bigger we are than an insect that is, say, maybe like that. We're so much bigger than the insects. And the frequency that I'm hearing from their distress, I think they are in distress, it's affecting my body. So could you imagine them? They're this big. And the 120 they're getting, they're feeling, they're sensing this, it's probably killing them. And if they do die out, we're going to know why. They couldn't withstand the frequency that's being done, that's out here. Their body was not adapted. They weren't made for this, and they can't adapt that fast, you all. They're just little bitty. They're teeny, teeny, tiny. The insects cannot adapt. They don't stand a chance. They don't, which is not nice. It isn't. Well, it is sad. It really is sad. It kind of makes me upset because they, like you said, they're part of creation too. Just like the bat in your house, they're flying around, and it didn't know what to do. And the animals, all the animals. I wonder if the reptiles, the little geckos, the salamanders, we got them here. I wonder if it's affecting them too. And you know, with the bees, it confuses the bees. The electricity, these waves, the bees get confused too. And it could send them in a frenzy. It could send them in a frenzy, and you wouldn't want to be near the bees. Well, there's some people who just like to step on bugs. I don't like to because it's so gross. No. If I see a bug that I don't want in my house or something, I take like a paper towel or a Kleenex. I pick it up, and then I come outside, and then I just throw it down here because I don't want to. Did you see that? I mean, I throw it down there. I think my phone told me, turn your phone around. Yeah, I don't like to kill them. I got cave crickets in our basement, and they're big, and they jump all over the place. But I don't want to sleep in my basement having the cave crickets jumping on me. I don't. Like when you go in a cave, I got them in my basement, even though my basement is 75% finished. Yeah, you are. This frequency, the insects, their frequency, it's probably a cry of distress, and they're helpless. I haven't been seeing any lay around anywhere. I haven't. And you know, how could you go to a protein diet of insects if they all going to die? How can you have insect protein and stuff like that? Are they going to grow the insects in laboratories and something like that so you can eat the protein from the insects? I don't think that's nice either, you all. I don't. It seems like it's died down some, their loud pitch frequency. It does. It seems like it has kind of died down some. But if If you're very sensitive to frequencies and energies, if you focus to what's happening all around, the sound on the, like the insects, you can feel it. You can feel the it's hard to explain, you all, it really is, but you can feel something. You can feel that connection, because if it affects you, it affects them. And they're part of this world. They're part of this world too. We share this world with the insects and the butterflies. I haven't noticed nothing about the butterflies. I haven't. They're very pretty to look at. Um, you're very, very, very sensitive to negativity. Yeah, nobody wants no negativity. Is somebody on here to the negativity? Um, it got quiet where you are all of a sudden. Um, that's good. Maybe. Maybe they want their voice heard too. Did you ever think of that? Maybe the insects want their voice to be heard too, what's happening to them. If they could speak, maybe that's their way of speaking. Speak loud enough, make a loud enough high-pitched frequency sound so somebody raises awareness of the distress that these insects are in. Um, uh, let me see this. Yeah, I think I am. We've got to watch out for them. We really do. I mean, they're not so loud right now. They're not. Yeah. It sounds so right to your stomach. Um, well, if there is a black widow or a brown recluse going to bite me, I'm probably going to kill it. Probably am. I don't want to get bit by it, and that might not sound nice, but no, I can't. I'll take something and I'll cover it up, but I won't do it personally. It's like that's kind of gross. It really is. You don't want to see the guts and stuff like that of the insects at all. You don't. Yeah. Cricket sandwich with ant soup. Well, I was watching a documentary when we were in Hawaii, and these people who were very poor from a third world country, my nose is itching. They had to go. They went to go dig ditches because they wanted to make money. They spent 4 months, took their children, digging ditches with a shovel for this corporation who promised to pay them money. And there was a documentary on them, and it showed the woman and her little children, like two of them, and her child said, "What's for supper, Mom?" She said, "Ant soup." They had to gather the big ants and with water, and they had to eat ant soup. And come to find out, all the workers who came from the third world country to dig, they never paid one single one of them, you all. Never paid them nothing. But they had to eat ant soup. It's like that story, Stone Soup. If you read it when you were little, I can't remember what it was about though, but I remember stone soup, and I thought, well, that doesn't sound too appetizing. Sand fleas. Your first live feed. Wow. Well, that's great, you all. That is great, you all. But the high pitch frequencies from the insects is getting to me, and I have to close my door. And you might have noticed it too, that it's very, very high pitched. They are very sensitive to radio frequencies. And now that we're up to 120, you can imagine what it's doing to them. If it's affecting us, I think they have a cry of distress. The insects do. That's what I think is happening. A cry of distress. And how could they predict the insects, you know, going away if they knew something wasn't going to eliminate them. Something like that. Um, roach. We don't want to talk about the roaches. Some people do eat them though. Um, you know what? When we lived in the housing, we lived in government housing when I was growing up, like in the duplex. My mother was a very clean housekeeper, and she still is. Her house was the most spotless with the housing authority. They always were nice to her because she kept a clean house and a nice yard. We had neighbors on the side of us, and every month the housing authority would come and spray for roaches. They spray all the houses for roaches. It left a oily substance on the floors, and you know, afterward, you had to mop the floors up. If you've lived in government housing, you know what I'm talking about. They had to mop the floors, wipe down everything. You had to open up all cabinets and stuff. So they do it, and it would get rid of some of the roaches. I remember going over to the next door neighbor's house. I'll walk out of our door and go over there. They had small children, but they were nice to hang around with at times. They, I kid you not, found out where the roaches were coming from. They would sit on their couch with fly swatters. And I looked around in broad daylight. There were the roaches crawling up the walls, crawling up the walls. And they would take their fly swatters and they'd splat the roaches. They were on the floor. They were in the kitchen, crawling on the counters. That's how the roaches were making their way over to our side of the house. And they even had to, my mother had to keep calling the housing authority to come back and spray it again. And finally they said something to them and they told them, you better get this house cleaned up or you're going to be evicted. Well, they ended up getting evicted because they were too filthy. But I'm telling you what, once those roaches get started, you can't get rid of them, but they would. It was nothing to them. Just look at them crawling around, and I'm sitting there standing in one spot, and they got the fly swatters, and the roaches are crawling on the house that big. The roaches in Hawaii, they were that big. Every time you go out at nighttime, you wouldn't want to go out barefooted in the grass because the roaches are literally that big. You'd be stepping on roaches in Hawaii when we lived on Hickam Air Force Base, you all. And the centipedes, that big, they crawl into the house. I'd rather, at that point, by the time we left Hawaii, I said, I'd rather see a roach than a centipede because the centipedes, they got the big long legs, and they crawled up the corner of our couch in housing. And I thought, oh my gosh, it was right there by my son when he was sitting. I said, brother, get up. I said, there's a gigantic centipede. And this woman coming home from work, you all, she was her husband, when he went to work, he told my husband, he said his wife came home. You all, this is terrible. All of a sudden, she got out of her car. She was screaming and hollering. She took her pants off. A gigantic centipede was in her car, and it had crawled up her leg. I'm not joking. If you live in Hawaii and you're watching this video, you know those centipedes get that big, and they got lots of legs, you all. I'd be pulling my clothes off too, and I would not even want to put them back on. I wouldn't. I'd run in. I would run in the house, you all. When I left Hawaii, I thought, oh, the roaches. If I see a roach and it's only that big, I'd rather have a roach any day over those centipedes. And I'm not kidding. They were all along the baseboards too. Somehow they find their way in the houses, you all. Hickam Air Force Base, and I guess on Pearl Harbor too, and all the other ones, you all. It was like, whew. Yeah, but even then I did not want to kill no centipede either. I didn't. Or the roaches. I don't know how I did it. I can't even remember. I just don't like squishing them. I don't like squishing bugs at all. Yeah. This shirts I got on is hot, you all, but yeah, the insects are in distress. Okay, they are, and they're part of the food chain too. They are part of the food chain. And if something happens to them, You know how the food chain goes, wherever they're at on that food chain, whoever's before them or after them and stuff, it's not going to be well. The food chain will completely collapse. The I don't know. If you're an entomologist or you study stuff like that, you know what I'm talking about. Not biodiversity. Well, it could be. It wouldn't be good for that insect kingdom and all the other stuff like there. It would collapse that food chain. Um, gnats and flying ants like crazy. Well, something's driving them out. Maybe this is the swarming season of them, you all. Thank you, ecosystem. That's right, ecosystem. It's like that song, just add ecology to me. That's me, ecology. Well, like ecology. Well, it's not like economics, but ecology, yeah. It would be an ecological disaster. How about that? Yeah, birds and bugs. That's right. The fifth element, birds and bugs. We have a great big red, I think it's a red hawk that has, this is this area now, and it eyes the rabbits that are in the yard. We got lots of rabbits and squirrels, and it's been here for around, perhaps, I'm probably talking too loud. It's been here for around almost a month, and we noticed that there's not as many squirrels because that's what it eats. Small animals. Um, Weaponized mosquitoes, they can do it. They can do it. They really can. You sent an invisible reality on the earth. Oh, you've seen it. And many insects were large and they worked for us. Wow, that's interesting. That really is. That's right. We're glad you made the live today, you all. That's all right, you all. It is. The high-pitched frequency seems to have gotten a little bit better, or maybe I am, well, that's just a buzzard up there. It's not as loud as it was, but at night it gets really loud too. But this part of the afternoon earlier, it was extremely, extremely loud. So it's the frequency. They are affected by the frequencies. And I think they're giving out a call of distress. And if it sounds the same where you're at, like it did in the earlier part of the video as here, I think the whole insect kingdom is in distress. Not to mention just from that, but from the changing weather and all of that, you all. And if the insects are in distress, that's going to have an effect on the plant life too, and all of that. I do love nature. I do. I love nature. I like the outdoors. I like science. I do. That was my favorite subject to teach the children when they were being homeschooled from like middle school up. Science and stuff like that. Biology and things. Baby kittens are thick like cows? No. The weather is changing. It's changing rapidly. Have you all noticed that you're seeing a bunch of algae on your vehicles? Because I had algae on my vehicle. Algae on the north side of my vehicle that does not face the sunlight. Green algae forming. Have you noticed that you're seeing your things get rusted a lot faster too? The rust is happening a whole lot on a lot of things. Rust for some reason. On the house to Gina, Jean Alice, yes. That is my favorite wind chime. It was moving one night when I was filming a star. There was not a single breeze or anything. This wind chime, this right here, it would literally come and it would hit this one chime, and that's it. It kept doing it and doing it and doing it. There was not a single breeze. You heard something? Mode. Yes, mode. Mode is growing, you all. I'm just so thankful we got a blue sky today. We do. And that's all right. If we could save the insects, really. And I know there's a lot of you. If the insects were in distress and you had a way that you could save them, like reverse things to where they would not be in distress, you would do it. If it was within our human means, we had like superpowers and stuff, control over that. I would. I would like for them to have a really good world to live in. I would. Free from all the pollutants of all types, you know. So they don't have to salvage, whatever that scavengers things. The hummingbirds. They're so talkative. Isn't that wonderful? Crickets only chirping at a certain time. Yeah, beautiful areas. I am going to go, you all. But at the first part of this video, the high-pitched frequency was so loud, extremely loud. I had to close my door, and then I thought, well, I wonder if anybody else is hearing the high-pitched frequency from the insects. Good night. I don't got my good glasses on, doggy. Yeah. Oh, you're also very welcome. Thank you for taking the time to listen, because I do think that they are in stress. If high-pitched frequencies, if waves affect us and we're much bigger than a teeny tiny insect, or maybe one that big, you know it's going to have a tremendous effect on them also, an enormous effect. So, yeah, the animal. Oh, your cat went outside. It's raining and he only walks outside on a leash, and never once has he gone out while it's wet. Wow. I'm going to go. Thank you all. And with that being said, hello, wherever you are in any part of the world. Hello. From my heart to yours, love you. Have a wonderful rest of your afternoon. I hope to see you all later. Thank you. Thank you, Susan B., honey. If you're still on here. If not, that's okay. Namaste.